Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this first impressions unboxing kind of walkthrough of the Tarot Untitled Alma. Tarot deck. I found out about this because somebody actually in the Supportive Tarot Facebook group had posted that they had one of these available for sale or trade. I sat on it for a really long time. I actually ended up finding a copy on eBay, which is where I ended up picking up my copy. I don't think the box was opened the way it was supposed to be opened. I think this was supposed to flip open like that, clearly, but instead it had been sliced along the side here. Not really a big deal because I don't tend to keep decks in boxes like this, but it was interesting. It was actually still wrapped in its original shrink wrap. It had just been opened here, and I almost feel like maybe the person who did that, who sold this deck on eBay, did that so that they could pull the cards out and show them in photos without really unsealing the deck or something. I don't know. It was interesting. But it did arrive in great condition, so I'm going to show it. As soon as I saw some of the artwork for this card, I was immediately like just completely entranced. And it was bizarre to me that I found it for such a low price on eBay because as far as I know, this is out of print. I just want to share it with you because I think it's really special. It is a deck that was created by, what's her name on here? I know it's on here somewhere. Susanna Fleischman. So there is the creator's name there, and I believe it was probably an independent deck created in Argentina. But the artwork is really special and unique and super captivating, so I want to take you guys on a tour through these cards. So if you enjoy watching just for the art, keep an eye out because when I last checked, there was another copy of this from the same seller on eBay. So you may be able to still find it. I don't know. Anyway, so I hope that if you do fall in love with this deck that you are able to get your hands on a copy, but it is really special and I just wanted to share it with people because when I was looking, I could not find any videos talking about it and I just think it's really cool. So we're going to dive in. Now I've already matched this with Peggy bags, and I say bags because this actually comes with two decks. There's the tarot deck, and then there's also, and it says here, 78 cartas color. Which I think basically means 78 cards to color because there's a mini deck that you could technically color. I say technically because they're tiny. So let me pull out this little mini Peggy bag. This is one of her older mini bags. But these cards, this little mini deck, it's little. Like, it's little. I should grab a standard deck for comparison so you guys can see. Okay, so I just grabbed Danny's Mystic Masters because this is a Make Playing Cards standard size. So we can see what a standard tarot card looks like. And then this little bitty card to color. This is just a bonus that they put in with the deck, which I do think it's really cool that that's there. It's so tiny. I love coloring, so I was kind of excited by the premise of this. But these are some teeny tiny spaces to try to color, so that's probably never going to happen. But I did give this deck to Peggy. Funny enough, when she colors, she likes to color the really teeny tiny artwork, so she may actually enjoy trying to color this, but I would not. She's also obsessed with tarot decks of like different unique sizing, so she likes like different shaped tarot decks or like mini decks and things like that. She's obsessed with little decks. So I gave this to her, but I just still wanted to show it because it is a full 78 card deck. It has all the cards and it's really quite cute. And if you like black and white decks, then you get a mini as a bonus with this deck if you can find yourself a copy that is still like newish and has all that stuff. So I wanted to show that. The Peggy bag that I have paired this with is this really cute one. These fun colors on it. Now the deck, the actual deck itself is also smaller than standard tarot size, but this is a great size. This is like a playing card size, like maybe poker or bridge. So let me grab another deck, or another card rather, from over here, and let's take a look. So actually, it appears like it is exactly the same. Oh, maybe it's a hair, like, I mean a hair wider, like just a hair. When I stack them together on the table and then pick them up, it looks like there's just a sliver of white, but it's definitely shorter than a standard tarot card. But this is a great size. I just think that's a really fun size. Cardstock wise, so this is Danny's cardstock. This is a 330 GSM smooth cardstock, and that's what that looks like. And these cards are thinner, so that's what that looks like. They bounce back a bit, so they probably are just like a thinner cardstock. I would guess 310 at the most, possibly even 300, but they actually feel nice and they are smooth. So we're going to do a walkthrough. Let's talk about the backings too. Hello? Like, they're so pretty. I'm a sucker for color, and there's something about the colors in this deck that just drew me in right away, but it's so pretty. And it's bright white with this like gorgeous spiral design and these little starbursts all over the place. It literally looks like a universe with a mandala. It's pretty. It's really pretty. So this is what they look like. Now, of course, the language on the cards is all in Spanish, which doesn't bother me because this is Rider-Waite-Smith enough. There are some that are a little trickier for me, I think in the wand suit, if I remember right, but we'll get there when we get there. I have already done my own initial flip through of this artwork because I had to the second I got it in because there were so few images I could find online. But I'm really excited to take you on a little tour of this deck. So I'm going to zoom us in. Hopefully the angle is good, and we're going to take a look. Boop. Oh, there's like a, there we go. So I'm going to zoom this out just a little so I can hold up the card at a slightly better angle as we go through. So here we have our Fool. I love that the Fool is coming out of this egg that is cracked open, and there's this like little snake coming up. This does have, to me, a little bit of a Thoth feel. I also like that we've got this like little like bear or lion or something coming out their side, and there's this like heart right at their chest, and all these butterflies. Like, it just feels like there's like so much opportunity and possibility in this card. I love that. And again, I love that image of the egg being kind of bursting open. I think that's great. Next, we have our magician, El Majo. I'm not sure if I'm going to say that right. I have not taken Spanish in so many, like I took it in high school. It's been way too long. He's got the as above, so below, and I love that he's pulling down this universal energy, this rainbow, and then where he's got his hand down, you can see flowers are just blooming and exploding with energy. And you also can see here all of the suits of the deck. So you have the wand, the sword, the cup, and the coins or the pentacles. I love this. This is so great. Here is our Papez, or our high priestess, and she's also fantastic. I love the way her hair is flowing everywhere. The crescent moons, it looks like two of them actually are behind her. There's definitely a very like otherworldly feel to this deck, but in a really beautiful way. There's this kind of sketchy kind of quality. I'm going to make a terrible comparison for those of you that know the deck, but this reminds me of what I wanted, I think, the Minute Tarot to be. It feels colorful, it feels sketchy, it feels like kind of loose and flowy, but there's just a little more to it, and it's something I feel I can sink my teeth into a bit better. So that's the High Priestess. I love that this wheel that's right at the center, let's see if I can bring it in a little closer and it'll still focus. It almost looks like it's featuring these different characters kind of dancing in a circle. It reminds me of almost like High Priestess-y energy and like the way that you can lead people to do like spiral dancing and things. I don't know why, but that's what it makes me think of. Here is our Empress, full in a garden. There's this like water, and she literally looks like, this reminds me a little bit of the, is it the Empress card? No, it's the World card in Poppy Palin's Everyday Enchantment Tarot, where a bunch of people are sitting around like this big like quilt, and they're basically quilting or knitting the world together. And it's a really beautiful card, and that's kind of what this looks like. It looks like she's Mother Earth, and she's literally like sort of manifesting the world to be what it is. Like, there's these big beautiful flowers, but then there's mountains and a river, and like she's larger than life in that way. It's really cool. I love that. Here is our Emperor, and he's got all of this structure and stability. I love that in this sphere that he's holding, you have all four elements. So you have earth, you have fire, you have air, and you have water. He's got the ram's head as his crown, which is really cool. Still that same kind of landscape we're used to seeing with our Emperor. And it's neat to me to see this like sort of energy that's kind of spiraling back through the mountains and then under his feet. You definitely get the idea of domain and power in this card. Love that. Our El Papa, so this is our Hierophant. I was going to say High Priest, but it's definitely a Hierophant-y kind of card. I like that he's framed in this star, and you can tell that he's got this like light, and he's at this like narrow opening, and then you have the people down below that are trying to access that information, that knowledge, or that spiritual wisdom. He's got the key sort of hanging at his chest there. Very Hierophant energy, and you can definitely tell just from the color difference between him and the characters below him that there is a potential power imbalance there. Have a sip of my water so my throat doesn't dry out, but this is really cool. I love that. I freaking love this Lovers card. I'm about to tell you why. But so one of my favorite cards in the Osho Zen Tarot is the Two of Water in that deck. And in that deck, the Two of Water shows a pink tree and a yellow tree, and then it shows where their leaves overlap and they become kind of orangey. Here you have two trees. This one is, they're obviously very different kinds of trees. This one has this sort of blue tendril, and this one has the sort of red tendril, and they're forming this, it's almost like this is the red blood vessel in a heart, and this is the blue blood vessel, and then they're sort of feeding this energy together. And to me, when we're talking about love and relationships, and I don't know, I mean, there's so many ways you could look at this artwork, but for me, this really speaks to that idea that like in any relationship, there's two people each feeding in and feeding and nurturing the actual relationship almost as a third entity. And I think that's really cool. There's a whole bunch of other ways you could go with this artwork as well, but I just really, really love this. The Chariot. Here we've got like literally somebody who is trying to navigate the pull of the light and the dark, the daytime and the nighttime. There's a very yin-yang energy to this card, and I love that. It's like the dark on this side, but it's nighttime on this side, the light on this side. It's almost got a temperance-y feel, but the wheels really let you feel that pull of the different directions and trying to harmonize and move yourself forward. There's a real sense of will and also focus here because the eyes are closed or blindfolded, but they're managing on these like individual single wheels, almost like walk. I can only imagine how tricky that is to navigate those energies and keep them rolling in the same direction. So you can totally work with that. The Justice card. I love this. Okay, I'm a big fan of the yin yang symbol for a whole lot of reasons. It's really meaningful to me. But I love that we have these two pillars and this focus right in the center. She seems very focused. Her gaze is straight ahead. The third eye feels like it's open, or whatever this higher self, higher awareness is. And there's a balance between light and dark. There's a balance between, you know, right and wrong, I guess you could say. So as a Justice card, this totally works for me. Now, Justice is in position 8 in this card, and then in this deck, and Strength is in position 11. This Hermit is so great. I love all the rich browns all around him. I love that we can tell he's high up on a cliff, and I love that instead of a lamp, it's like a sphere of sparkly starlight almost. I love this image. It's so pretty. I love it. I love this. I fell in love with this deck so hard, you guys. I'm going to say I love this card over and over again. I'm sorry. It's going to be repetitive. It's just the way it's going to be. Here's our Wheel of Fortune, and we have a really wonderful seasonal energy here. So we have winter down in this quadrant. We have spring. We have summer. And we have fall. And I love that there's also a figure here in various types of body positions, and you get this feeling of like the way that the wheel turns and the way that we might feel one way about it one time and a different way a different time. There's the lemniscate in the center, that figure 8 symbol, talking about, you know, eternity and that we're in a constant loop, right? I love this. It's pretty. I like when there's a seasonal element to the wheel card because it reminds me of the Wheel of the Year. And La Fuerza. This is the Strength card. And again, I freaking love this card. For starters, if you look down in the hem of her gown, we see all 4 suit elements, much like we would in the Magician card. And actually also like in the Magician card, let me just show you this because it's a really cool comparison. In the Magician card, if you look, he was pulling down this universal energy in the form of rainbow and growing plants. Well, so is our Strength card in a different kind of way, right? She's sort of pulling in this energy, or you could also see that as expanding that energy upward. But there's a really cool depiction there, right? And what I love is that she is the lion. Hopefully it focuses. There we go. She is the lion. And there's all this growth at her feet. So there's the way that I work with the Strength card often has to do with sort of the things that you're working to gain strength over or gain harmonization within the self. Oftentimes I look at this as a symbol of the kind of shadow work where we're able to bring things in and integrate them with ourselves. And so her being the lion, like on top like that, it's so cool. Here's our Hanged Man. I love that this person looks like they're in their jammies and they're dangling from the moon. I love that. I also love that we have this very watery scene below and the growth up here. It's a very peaceful scene, but also one where you feel like there's this well of knowledge. And that's seeing water below the Hanged Man is something I've grown to really appreciate ever since studying the runes and reading more about Odin and Odin's well and all of that stuff. So this really speaks to me to the well of enlightenment or of knowledge that is below them. And you can go into the place with sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. But I love that. Again, love this death card. So it's really cool. For starters, so it's La Muerta, the number 13. We have this skeleton here, and you can actually see, this might be a little too much for some of you guys, so if you like are super weirded out by anatomy and stuff, maybe I don't look at this next part, but if you can tell, the flesh is actually still kind of flesh down here. And this is actually, it looks like muscle fibers that are unwinding and kind of dripping off of this character. And all of this like growth and plant life is coming up, and they're like above or outside of the world. And so there's this real feeling of release and shedding happening here. And I really love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So now we have Temperance. And this is really interesting because there's sort of a microcosm, macrocosm kind of energy here, because there's a little bit of temperance energy happening here as this angel sort of works with these energies in her hands. But then up here, you can almost see like a universal tempering happening where there's like almost starlight or night sky energy that's being poured down and like slowly diluted as it drips down until it's much smaller and comes down into the world. I also love that you have like almost what's about to be an eclipse happening here with the sun and the moon both in the sky. Love that. Here we have the Devil card. And this really is just like classic Devil to me. It's interesting that there's something blue. I haven't figured this out, but there's something blue and it looks like it's on the ground and is also being held by the Devil figure here. I also think it's interesting that the Devil is holding this like planet, kind of almost like holding it hostage in a way. And to me, it's almost like that world moment that we're trying to get to when we're on the hero's journey, when we're on the fool's journey, I should say, in the tarot. That world moment, that completion, it's like he's holding it hostage. And until we break free of this, we aren't going to be able to get to that moment. Here is the Tower card. Again, I freaking love this depiction. Instead of a physical tower, what we have instead is this pile of, this very precarious pile of things. Right? There's like a chair, there's a house plant, a little ladder, a window, a sailboat, a chimney, a pillow. And then this person was like right on top, you can tell, and they had a crown. And the crown is getting knocked off their head and then they're falling. That's how I read this image. It's like the crown gets knocked off and then they tumble down, because it looks like the same figure in all three of those depictions. So it really speaks to the crumbling of the ego of the Tower, and that is so, so cool. The Star. I really enjoy how this feels like it's water and sky at the same time, like she was a fallen star and is now a mermaid or something. I don't know. I just think it's really pretty. And it's interesting to me, this light from the star is like spiraling around and it seems to be connecting and wrapping right into her sacral chakra. I don't know if that's intended, but that's where my brain goes with it, and I think that's really beautiful. It's almost like you're able to find your will and your positivity and your hope again in order to move forward, but you have to connect with that water element. I don't even know if the star is the water element. I'm just suddenly blanking on that in the tarot, but I just think this is a really pretty image, and it speaks to connection to that source energy, which I think is cool. The Moon card, again, just like in the Strength card here, our Moon card, she is the crayfish and she's emerging from the water to walk that path in the dark towards the light at the end, towards the moon. We have this dog or wolf here. So you really see this as the journey of the self and emerging from the subconscious. Super, super cool. I actually have grown to really love me a naked baby in the Sun card. And I think partly it's because I connect the Sun card to the practice of authenticity and of conscious vulnerability and letting the world see you as you are. So being fully in the light. And little babies are not ashamed. Like, they don't care. They are exactly who they are, and they're not worried about what other people are going to think of them. And so I think it's a great symbol. I love how big the sun is here and how joyful the kid is. And I love that the kid is like literally holding and playing with butterflies. I think that's awesome. Love that. Here is the judgment card. I almost said justice because it says El Juicio, which cracks me up because it's the C in there is just making my brain go justice. But no, this is clearly judgment. What I especially love, judgment is a call to action to really step into your higher good. And I feel like she's literally showing the way, saying, here's the path. You just have to start walking on it. So it's really clear to me what this card means with this imagery. I love that. And we have our beautiful dancing world card. Love that. Yep, this is going to be a deep dive because I've just finished the majors and we're more than 20 minutes in. So I will be labeling this one a deep dive for sure. Okay, anyways. So now we're into the cups. I don't know why I started with cups. Maybe that was the order it originally came in. It must have been. Anyways. So there's a really cool thing here. These are depicted in such a smart way. Whoever this artist was knew the tarot, understood the tarot, and really depicted this in their artwork. It's so obvious to me, so clear. Anyway, so here we have the Ace of Cups, and we have our central figure here, and an actual heart shape up above with a cup. And again, we have that idea of the vessels, the blue and the red. And if I remember what heart anatomy at all, one of those vessels is an inbound and one is an outbound kind of vessel or energy. So that reminds us that when we're talking about the gift of the Ace of Cups and this concept of being able to, just moving my candle because it's just finishing and I don't want it to like be too distracting. Anyway, when we're thinking about the Ace of Cups and this concept of what is being offered, what emotional blessing is this, and what does it contain for us, there's this idea of there's a bit of give and take to that experience, right? We have to actively engage with what is being offered in order to get the blessings from it. That's what I get from that card. I could not love this Two of Cups more. And it's for a personal reason, but really it's because of this physical body language that's happening here. The way that this figure is all curled up and this figure is wrapping arms around and kissing the forehead, because Peggy kisses my forehead and I love it so much. And this just gave me all the feels in the best possible way, but I love this. I also love that we have the waxing crescent moon up here with the Two of Cups, or the two cups showed side by side. Speaks to that sort of honeymoon phase and that newness of the energy, the burgeoning energy of the waxing moon. So I love that. The Three of Cups. I especially love that this person is very self-contained. She is her own best company. You could also view this as celebrating with friends, but I like that she's in the foreground and these other figures in the background are shadows, because you could read it as, you know, she is feeling fulfilled and connected within herself, which is really great. Within her dress here is actually a cup that has spread up and is growing almost like a tree within her. And this to me is really speaking to what happens when we really actively engage with this energy and we let it grow and develop within us. That is where our relationships start to really take root and fill our cup and make us feel very fulfilled and whole, whether that relationship is one with ourselves or with somebody else or many other people. So I love that depiction. I think it's really cool. Four of Cups. Oh, okay. Again, this cup suit is really great at showing relationship dynamics, and this is a great example of that. These characters have back-to-back. The four is about stability. We have a very solid ground here, but you can see there's almost like some emotional like leakage happening. It's almost like there's a lack of really recognizing what they have, and as a result there's like a leak happening, like almost like some of that is pouring off, is escaping them because there's a lack of gratitude or a lack of appreciation for what they do have. That's how I would read this card, like at first glance. And it would probably depend on the situation, the reading, and what my intuition says at the moment, but I just think that's really cool. Here we have our Five of Cups, and this is really super interesting to me because it reminds me again of the Osho Zen Tarot card, projections. So I'm seeing some familiar types of imagery in ways that make this deck feel very homey and comfortable to me. But what we see here is a woman, or a more feminine looking figure, a more masculine looking figure. And you see their true self is kind of back a little bit. And then if you look forward, she's got her hands over her ears and he looks like he's angry and shouting. I'm just going to pick genders for the sake of the simplicity of it describing. But yeah, like, and so you get this idea that who they really are isn't what's happening right now. They're caught up in this moment. They're seeing like, they're kind of like, it's like what they're projecting forward. And then we have the spilled cups around them. So you have that emotional disruption in their relationship, but, ooh, I just moved my whole reading cloth. Anyways, you have that emotional disruption, but you can tell that it's not who they really are. They're just getting caught up in the projections. the Six of Cups. This is great because we see two figures very much in like fetal position, and there's like a self-soothing energy to this, which really speaks to me, the energy of what the Six of Cups often represents, a wish for a safer, happier, simpler time, and a kind of curling up within oneself to kind of focus on that as a way to either self-soothe or to distract oneself from what's actually going on in our lives. But it's very expressive, this card. The Seven of Cups. This feels like how, to me, this artwork seems to depict the feeling of what a Seven of Cups moment can feel like. It feels very ungrounded. It feels very floaty. These three cups are sort of raining down right over the sacral chakra, which is the emotional center. And we get this idea of like all of these dreams and ideas and sort of daydreamy and floaty. It's very fluid and ungrounded again. And I think that's what stands out to me from this artwork. Again, it's really interesting to me to see how people depict the energies of the various cards. Love that. This is, oh, I'm getting goosebumps with this card. This is such a powerful card, and I'm about to like wax poetical about why, or wax philosophical about why. This is so powerful. So the first things that jumped out at me when I saw this piece of artwork, for starters, she's got this hole in the center of herself where her heart is supposed to be. And she's extended the heart out, and she's been pouring all of the energy into whatever this is that the Eight Cups represents. And you can see it's being rained on, and there's all this like energy just pouring out, and she's like extended herself out, and this is what she's extended herself into. And the time has come when she realizes she needs to take her heart and pull it back into herself. She needs to pull her energy back into herself. Again, goosebumpy, because this is very much what Eight of Cups is about, right? It's about recognizing that enough is enough. We've put too much energy into something that is maybe no longer serving us. There's something missing within ourselves because we've been focusing over here, and we need to pull it back to ourselves. We need to pull our energy back to ourselves. And I can't remember where I first heard that statement. It may have actually been something that Ethany said to me once. That's what's kind of tickling at my mind right now, but something about pulling cords back. And I've been recently reading a book that also talks about this, the cords that we connect to other people and other situations and how we can pull that back to ourselves. But anyway, there's so much, it's such a jarring card because it really so beautifully depicts what an Eight of Cups moment feels like or is like and how to recognize it. So I think that's really, really powerful. Conversely, here we have the Nine of Cups, which is a very different sort of engagement with these cords between these two figures. We have this single line of cups. They're both knee deep in their emotions, right? So they're very in their emotional bodies, and their hearts are connected and giving and receiving equally. There's lots of cords going back and forth. So you don't get that feeling of one person giving more than the other is receiving. It's very equal, and it feels very fulfilled. Everybody's in their peaceful place, right? We don't see any unpleasant facial expressions or anything that would indicate unhappiness. The Nine of Cups is a very stable energy. We've built something strong, and there's lots of cords going back and forth. So it's a lot different than maybe in the Two of Cups. Let me just grab it. Where things are new and they're just beginning and it's burgeoning. Now it's very well developed, and we have something we can really be grateful for. And here in the Ten of Cups, what I love about this, we see these two figures, they're very connected, they've built something solid, and we have all of these cups, and we have this long journey. So this really speaks, this path here speaks of longevity and really being well rooted in a relationship. There's a lot of like substance and stability. Love that. And then here we have our court cards. And if I remember correctly from my first flip through, each one of these court cards connects to the elemental association of that court as well as the suit that it's in. So the pages are the earth of their suit. So here we have the Page of Cups, and we have this sort of earthy material, plant material, and within that we see the element of water, and the page is holding up the cup, and this person looks like they're almost dancing, like almost like a ballerina would dance, which is very appropriate for the Page of Cups. I think somebody who's kind of moving through the world a little lighter in a way, a little more joyfully, a little more expressively, so that really works. And then in the knights, we'll see that they are associated with the element of air. So regardless of the element, our knight will be on a winged horse. And here we see the cup up here and the little air tendrils here. And our knight is actually looking head on sort of at the viewer. So you get that more engaged, connected feeling from that card. And then we have our queen, which is the water. And so in the cup suit, she'll be water of water. So she's enrobed in water. She's surrounded by water. And there's her cup up above her. And I looked, I don't think these are real constellations. These don't remind me of any real constellations. They're just kind of funky sigils in the stars, which is interesting. But yeah. And then the kings are fire of their element. So this is fire of water. So we see this sort of flame background happening. And then he is, of course, rooted in water. I love how sort of like wizardy he looks. I think he's really cool. And now we're into our coins or pentacles. I can't remember what they are in this deck. I think they're coins. Oros. I don't know if Oros is coins, but I'm guessing it is. So here we have our ace. And we can see the ace of coins is usually about an opportunity. There's like the tendrils of just the beginnings of growth wrapping around this figure's body. All this starlight above and below. And then there's this like snake kind of wrapping around them, and you get this feeling of like an opportunity to learn something perhaps. There's a wisdom element there. I'm not sure, but it's pretty. I like it. I love this two of coins because here we have a figure literally hanging out in a hammock between the two things. And if there was a card to depict the comfort zone between like a really well balanced between balancing these two things, this person's got it covered. They're hanging out in this space in between, and they're doing so very comfortably, as opposed to the struggle we typically see in the two of coins, where we see somebody really struggling to balance the two things that they're trying to balance. This person's like, no, it's okay. I've got this. I'm good. So I like that. That's fun. Here's our three of coins, and we have like a magician and the magician's assistant, and they are working together to pull off this magic show, which I think is really cool. There may be something I'm missing in these images, but these are just like sort of impressions. Here we have the four of coins. Again, very, very smart. This is somebody who's holding onto their resources, but they're doing so tightly that they're like really embedded in the earth and they can't move very comfortably or very freely. So there's rigidity here, which is, it makes sense, right? We have the stability of the four, but the cracks show us there could be too much stability. We could be too bogged down in it. So love that. Have another sip of my water. Here's our five of coins. And here this person's hanging out with just these like sticks that are kind of like not growing any growth. There's a lack of engagement with growth right now. They're sort of disconnected, and yet behind them there's this beautiful lush garden sparkling with life that they could just turn around and go engage with. So very Five of Pentacles, Rider-Waite-Smith there. It really works. Here's our Six of Pentacles. This is such a great card when talking about like energy exchange in relationships and like give and receive energy. They're watering each other so that they both can grow. And this really speaks to, like, a lot of times in the Six of Pentacles, we'll see a card where somebody's clearly like the giver and somebody's clearly the receiver. But I much prefer images like this where you can see how both giving and receiving helps to move everybody forward, right? Like there's a symbiosis, is that the word I'm looking for, or a harmony to working with these energies and being willing to both give and receive. Next we have our Seven of Coins, and you can tell this person's like, I don't know how things are going to turn out. I don't know which way things are going to go. Often sevens are turning points, and here we really see that in a way that we don't always see it in the Pentacles suit. So you could read this a number of ways. You could read this as like worry about how things are going to turn out, like which way is it going to go. You could also read this as which way am I going to go? How am I going to shift course? Do I need to shift course? So I really like that. Here is the Eight of Pentacles, and here the person is fully engaged and working to grow and develop. So as opposed to the Five, where was the Five? Where they weren't really engaged, right? They were disconnected. Here they've engaged and they're working with their element to grow and develop and master their craft, whatever that is. And here we have our Nine of Pentacles. I love this card. This person is clearly enjoying the benefits of the work that they've done. This deck has a very personal development kind of feel through the coin suit rather than feeling quite so much about work necessarily, but you could definitely see it that way. Here there's the central coin right at their solar plexus, and then you have these coins here, and you really get the feeling like their drive and their focus is why they're able to stop and enjoy everything. Love that. Here we have the 10. Again, rather than seeing like sort of a nuclear family, which we typically see in the 10, instead we have this idea of completion, and there's freedom of movement here because of the well-established growth. There's a whole bunch of ways to read this, and I love it. I love it. And we're into the court cards. So just like before, the page has this earthy heart, and within that we see mountains and plants, so we see the symbol of earth there. And this person is, again, dancing and moving. So they're very consistent, the court cards, which I appreciate. Here again, we still have a flying horse, but this one looks like it's almost standing still, connected to that earth element. And the knight is looking at us still, so that's cool. And here we have the queen, who is water of earth, and she is surrounded by water, but she is enrobed in her element of earth, which really works. And our king, which is fire of earth, and we have all the flames behind him, but he is very rooted here in the earth, and he's got lots of what look like riches around him. So this is a very like wealthy feeling card. And now we're into espadas, or spades, or swords. And the ace is very fast moving. This feels like you've got to grab hold of this because this path has just opened in front of you and you're going to get free of all of this stuff. You just got to move in that direction. So I like that. This Two of Swords is so smart. So here we see almost what we would expect to see in the Two of Pentacles, but I think it makes so much sense in this spot. I'm just going to pull the Two of Pentacles so you can see what I mean. So whereas in the Two of Coins, or I keep saying Pentacles, but you know what I mean. Whereas the Two of Coins, the person's existing in the liminal space between these two things and like really juggling them well. There's a lot more struggle in the Two of Swords, which I think makes sense, right? Because in the sword suit, we are usually struggling a little bit more. And I love that the balance is very clearly between heart and mind. Is the figure still blindfolded? I can't tell. Hold on. No, they're not still blindfolded. But they're trying to figure out what they need to focus on. They're kind of looking towards mind, but their body is moving towards heart. So you can really feel the tug in this card. Super smart. Here we have the Three of Swords. Big heart here and lots of feeling bound up by whatever's happening, very stuck in the feels of it all. And we have these like gray, like sort of mountainy, sort of spiky, crystal-y things that are around that kind of give, I think, a visual representation of the fact that swords can feel kind of pokey, like things are poking at us, right? So I like that. It just feels very visually depictive. I also just realized that the backgrounds of these cards are right in line with their suit color associations. I don't think I noticed that before. So, oh, actually, okay, so cups are pink backgrounds. Pentacles are green backgrounds, and the swords are yellow backgrounds so far. So I like that. That's cool. Our Four of Swords. Here we have somebody sitting still, surrounded by their swords, and they're very focused on this crystal. There's definitely a meditative energy to this card, and I always love a good meditating Four of Swords, so that works for me. In the Five of Swords, you can tell they're feeling stabbed in the back. They're curled up on themselves. They feel like they've gotten the raw end of the deal. In the Six of Swords, I love that this bag is packed and what's in it is a brain, like is the mind. But she's lifting her heart. She's trying to be open to something new. She's trying to move away from the difficulty, but she is bringing all of her thoughts and ideas and sort of mental baggage about that situation with her. But you could also see this as she's consciously going to put it down and move forward, or she's going to pick it up and bring it with her. And that's one of the things I often talk about with the Six of Swords is, are you bringing the swords with you? Like, are you actually bringing all of that trauma and pain and difficulty with you, or are you going to leave it behind? And like how you choose to engage with that process is a part of the Six of Swords, in my opinion. The Seven of Swords. I love how these are all tangled up and there's this big eye right at the third eye point, wide open. So all of these things are happening and it's kind of a mess. I don't know. I do kind of wish there was a guidebook, but there's no guidebook of any kind with this deck that I've found. If you know different, definitely let me know. But you can also, by the way, tell that you wouldn't be able to trim this deck because look at the way that the images are positioned. This one's so far over to one side, but I actually think it adds to the charm of this deck. I would never want to trim this. It's got these like hand sketched borders that make it feel very hand done, and I love that. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a side track, but so often in the Seven of Swords, I'm looking for something that depicts maybe going about things, overworking a problem, going about it in a circuitous way, maybe being a little manipulative, maybe being sneaky. So I'm looking for that kind of energy. I haven't decided if I'm really seeing it here. I'd be curious about your thoughts. If you look at this card, how do you connect it with the Seven of Swords and your understanding of the Seven of Swords? Let me know down below. Here we have the Eight of Swords and this feeling of being really trapped, and yet all the swords are pointing outward. So she could just pick any one of them up and like move out of that situation. So it's definitely being caught up in your own head, the analysis paralysis kind of energy. Here we have the Nine of Swords and this fear and anxiety. I like that it's looming over her in a shadow, and you get the feeling that this could be this is her own shadow almost, like looming over her. So you could go to a lot of different places with this as a reader. You could go to guilt, you could go to inner critic. There's lots of ways to look at this as a reflection of self that is like attacking you. And the 10 of Swords. It's interesting to me. There is some, what looks like maybe blood, or it might just be like flower petals right around this part. I can't quite tell. Hopefully you can on the screen. But what I really love is there's all this like disaster. She's laying on top of the swords. They're not like on top of her, bearing down on her. And there's this growth coming right out of the heart space. This new plant life. So you get that sort of feeling of dawn after you've already hit rock bottom. Now you can start to move up. There's this hope and optimism in that plant, which I really love. And our court cards. So here we have Earth of the air element with the page. I really like this pose and the focus on the sword. This reminds me of dancer pose in yoga, or some version of it. And it requires this single pointed gaze and this focus. And I really see the focus here. And of course we see the wind element or the air element inside that plant heart. Here's our Knight, much more speedy, fast moving, still with the gaze right at the viewer. So that's really cool. Definitely feels a lot faster with the motion in the Knight of Swords, which is something I look for in the Knight of Swords. Here's our Water of Air. So this was Air of Air, right? Up in the air, and it's the air element. Here we have Water of Air. And so we have still the water background, enrobed in clouds here with the Queen of Swords. So the court cards are very simple, but they're consistent, which I really enjoy. I was going to do a quick comparison because I think how the water is behaving, kind of like how the horse is behaving, changes how you read the knights. You can definitely see there is different types of water movement behind the queens. So here the water feels very calm, very still for the most part, especially compared to, say, the Pentacles, where it's like kind of swirling. And let's just check the cups because I'm curious. And then it's very wavy in the cups. So the water's doing very different things depending. So that's kind of cool to see that. And I'm sure you see the same thing in the flames with the kings. But that's cool. I like it. Yeah. And here we have the king standing what looks like to be a crystal cave. I really love how these kings are depicted. Again, they look like little wizards. It makes me happy. Here the flames are very spiky and linear looking. So you get that idea of more linear thinking. Love it. And finally, the wands. Now, if I remember correctly, my very first flip through, I struggled a little more with the wands. We'll see how I do, because I tend to just roll with my intuition during these videos, so we'll see. So here we have the Ace of Wands. I love how she's like emerging from flame. It's almost like a, you can definitely get that she's in her passion. There's this opportunity to grab hold of this idea or this inspiration and just take it and run with it. In the Two of Wands, now to me, Two of Wands is about possibility. And here we almost see more of that sort of, to me, I feel like this is more of a partnership element, which can be how this card is read. It's just not typically how I read it. So this is another one. I'd be curious if you're watching this deep dive, if this makes you think of anything, like how do you read the wands more as like planning and possibility? And if so, how do you connect this image with that particular interpretation? I'd be curious because, yeah, but it is beautiful. You definitely see the progression, I will say, in the wands, which is something I like to see because we're watching an idea kind of progress from initial inspiration and getting more and more solid. Here in the Three of Wands, we have more of that feeling of development happening, and you can actually see a bit of what looks like aging. I just noticed that. So the central figure, her hair is all red, and then we have streaks of white, and now it's like gray-white. So you get the feeling of like growing with an idea or developing with this project or life's work or inspiration. So that actually works for me. I really love this Four of Wands, although I don't know if I can articulate why. I love that it's very stable energy. I love that there's like a balance of passion, a balance of work here, of the thing we're trying to do. There's a focus here on the central spine and the pelvis, which is a very solid core, and it really kind of confirms for me that whatever is happening, whatever the wand suit is representing in a reading, this tells us that that energy has stabilized, it's very grounded and rooted and balanced, and that's a great four for me, so I like it. In the Five of Wands, there's a feeling of curling in on oneself, and all of these, are these leaves? I don't know what it is that's in her hair. I don't know if you guys can tell on the bigger, like when you look at it bigger than I can see it. But, and then she's surrounded by all of these things. And to me, this is like inner critic attacking her, other people's voices, other people's expectations, whereas in the Five of Wands, we're often seeing competition between people. Here it's almost like you're competing with your own sense of self-sabotage, you're competing with your own inner critic. I don't know, that's where my brain goes with that. Here in the Six, there's definitely celebration and success. We have still the laurel, but it's unwound. It's not a wreath, but rather a path that she's traveling. So she's on the road to victory, maybe is how I view that. Is this card literally flipped? These cards are literally flipped upside down. There we go. Okay. Here's the Seven. Again, here, this one goes a little bit more pippish to me. It like opens up for more possibility. The Seven of Wands to me is often about standing your sacred ground and like standing up to people or establishing boundaries, things like that. So again, this is what I'd be curious about your thoughts on in the comments. If you're watching this, what do you think? How do you connect this with that sort of leaping or higher ground imagery we often see in the Seven of Wands? Curious, curious, curious. I love how in the Eight of Wands, she looks like she's falling. Like everything's kind of taken on a life of its own and she's caught up in it. She's falling. And that's very much like the energy of the Eight of Wands to me. And the Nine of Wands, finding that last push of energy from within oneself and sort of digging deep. That's what this makes me think of. Digging into that deeper energy, the why of something, so you can keep going. And the 10, here's another one that I'm not sure about. I don't know if I fully get. It could be that you're trying so hard. You know that energy, like that energy when you're working, and you wish you could clone yourself because you feel like you're trying to be too many people all at once? That's kind of what that makes me think of. So actually I got there. We're good. And finally our quartz. So we have our page with the earthly heart here and flames in the center. The knight. So air of fire, so flying. This one's still looking directly at us. So I like that kind of confronting energy from all the knights. Our Queen of Wands, and she's enrobed in fire, but she's water of fire. So she's surrounded by water, but she is fire of water. And our King of Wands, lots of active flame, lots. It looks like he's literally hanging out on lava. The floor is lava. The floor is lava. Cracks me up. Okay, so I'm going to zoom us out. We're going to give a shuffle so you can see what the cardstock is like. I'm going to show you thickness-wise. I had to move my candles because they totally died because I was talking for such a long time. So this is, like I said, this is Danny's 330 GSM Mystic Masters Tarot. And this actually looks like it's similarly, if anything, it looks actually like it might be just a touch thicker. It doesn't even make sense to me. There's no bonus cards. Okay, let's just butt these up against each other. Okay, now they're basically the same. There's actually just a bit of room above. Like if I were to put these both on the table so that I can't fuss with it, I could scoot over 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards. So 4 cards were able to move over on top of the Mystic Masters deck. So it is actually probably 330 GSM. It feels weirdly like more bendy. It might not have a core. That might be what it is. I'm not sure. Because Danny's deck feels more flexible, I guess. So let's see. I'll just do this with Danny's deck. And let's do the same thing here. I mean, it feels kind of the same, kind of. I mean, it does bounce back. It doesn't seem to like stay bent. Maybe it does. Yeah, it does seem to stay bent a bit. So these probably don't have a core. So they're probably a similar thickness, but they don't have a core in them because they don't seem to feel like they would. They do feel like they would like bow, or like if you bent it. I mean, it bounces. I don't know. Maybe it's fun. I don't know. You guys, I don't know. I can't figure it out. But it does. It weirdly feels kind of thinner than Danny's deck. I'm not sure why, but it does. But it's not. It's actually a tiny bit thicker. So who knows? But let's give him a shuffle and see. So hand over hand. It is a matte cardstock. It feels more matte. So they do have a tendency to kind of clump a little tiny bit, but it doesn't have a rose petal finish or anything like that. It's just like a smooth matte finish. It's actually a really lovely size. And let's see what the shuffle's like. Oops, that was a terrible shuffle, but you get the idea. So we shuffle good, and the size makes it really easy, especially if you have smaller hands. Yeah, shuffle's great. It definitely feels like nicer cardstock. I remember the Minute Tarot cardstock felt super flimsy. This doesn't feel like that. And I think I'm comparing to the Minute Tarot in my head because this deck, like I mentioned before, it's like what I wanted the Minute Tarot to be, this deck is for me. If you like this style, I would say, or if you liked the Minute Tarot, you'd probably really enjoy this. Another deck that I think falls into this similar kind of feel is the, oh, is it called the My Garden Tarot? It was a recent Kickstarter, recent-ish Kickstarter, because I don't know when this video is going to go up. But at the time I'm filming it, it had only just come out, so we'll see. I have a lot of walkthroughs to put up on the channel, so who knows. And this one's out of print, so I probably won't put this video up right after I film it. I'll probably put it up whenever. But there you go. So that, my friends, is the Tarot, oh gosh, Un Portal al Alma, which, by the way, means a door to the soul, or the door to the soul. Oh, it fans beautifully. Look at that. So that is that deck. What a fun deck to walk through. I hope you enjoyed the deep dive and just kind of hearing me talk about what the cards meant to me and how I was interpreting the artwork. I think that's what's fun about doing these longer walkthroughs is you get a peek into my brain and like how I look at these cards and like what I get from them. So I hope you enjoyed this, and please do remember to click like down below if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the walkthrough. Subscribe if you're new here so that you can click your little subscription feed on YouTube and see my videos in that feed. Click the bell to be notified of my future videos and also to get notifications when I do go live. And remember, if you want to book a one-on-one tarot reading with me, you can always do that over at supportivetarot.com. Thank you so much, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye, guys.